नमस्कार मंडळी, ई-लर्निंगमध्ये सर्वांचे स्वागत आहे. आज आपण महाराष्ट्र स्टेट बोर्ड इंग्लिश मीडियम स्टँडर्ड 7 सब्जेक्ट हिस्ट्री चॅप्टर 1 द सोर्सेस ऑफ हिस्ट्री ह्या धड्याची माहिती घेणार आहोत. चला तर पाहूया. महाराष्ट्र स्टेट बोर्ड स्टँडर्ड 7 सब्जेक्ट History and Civics Chapter 1 The Sources of History. Students, we have studied ancient history last year. This year we are going to study medieval period of Indian history. Broadly, the period from 9th century CE till the end of 18th century CE is considered as the medieval period of Indian history. In this lesson, we are going to study the sources of medieval history. History gives us a chronological, scientific, and systematic account of past events. 4 factors are very important from the viewpoint of history. They are individuals, society, place, and time. History must be based on authentic evidence and proofs. These proofs are known as the sources of history. Now, let us classify the sources into material sources, written sources, and oral sources to learn more about them. Let us also evaluate the sources of history. For this, we have to consider many factors related to the historical event that we want to study. It is necessary to support our study with historical sources. These sources have to be verified. We have to see whether they are authentic. It is necessary to use these sources judicially and only after a critical analysis. Material sources. Forts have an important place among material sources. Some major types of forts are hill forts, forest forts, sea forts, and forts on the plains. Monuments include samadhis, graves, Veergala, and buildings include palaces, ministerial mansions, queen's quarters, Rani Vasa, and also houses of common people. They all provide insight about that period. Looking at them, we come to know about the development of architecture, the economic conditions, the quality of art, style of the building constructions, and people's standard of living in that particular period. The coins made of different rulers using metals like gold, silver, copper are important sources of history. From these coins, we learn about the rulers, their period, governance, religious ideas, personal details, etc. Similarly, we also learn about the financial transactions and economic conditions prevailing at that time. We also see how far metallurgy had advanced in that period. From the images of Ram, Sita on the coins of Emperor Akbar or Shiva Parvati on the coins of Hyder Ali, we see the religious coordination of those days. The Peshwas used the Arabic or Persian language on their coins. This throws light on the use of language in that period. The physical sources of material sources are memorials, buildings, cave, sculptures, inscriptions, coins, copper plates, and forts. Students, can you tell How do coins narrate history? Students, let's learn. Since ancient times, coins like Kavdi, Damdi, Dehla, Pai, Paisa, Ana, and Rupee were used. Some local idioms or proverbs are based on coins. For example, एक फुकटी कवडी देणार नाही. Here, फुकटी कवडी means the lowest bit of money. 16 आना सच means 100% true. An inscription is a carving on a stone or a wall, etc. For example, the inscription found in Brihadeshwara temple premises in Thanjavur. Many inscriptions of the period of Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Cholas and Yadav kings have been found. An inscription is considered to be very important and reliable source of history. It helps us to understand features like the language, script, social life of a period. Inscriptions carved on sheets of copper are known as copper plates. Royal edicts, verdicts, etc. are inscribed on copper plates. Written sources of history. In this, we learn about the significant historical events in the medieval period from sources like the writing styles of the scripts like Devanagari script, Arabic script, Persian script and Modi script, etc. as also from the varieties of different languages. Bhujpatra, religious manuscripts, treaties, edicts, decrees, biographies, paintings, etc. We can gather information about the food items, attire, conventions, and the rules of conduct of the people, the festivals, and about people's life, etc. from these sources. Sources of these types are called the written sources of history. Students, do you know Chaityas, Viharas, temples, churches, mosques, agyaris, dargahas, maqbaras, gurudwaras, monuments, sculptures, wells, minarets, village boundaries and gates, weapons, utensils, ornaments, clothes, decorative articles, toys, implements, musical instruments are all material sources of history. Documents of proceedings in the courts of kings, genealogies, shakavalis, correspondence dispatches, judicial verdicts or orders, treaties and biographies, travelogues of foreign travelers, chronicles, tawarika, etc. are the written sources of history. During this period, many travelers from other countries came to India. They have written travelogues or accounts of their travels. Some of them are Al-Biruni, Ibn Battuta, Nicolao Manuki, Babur's biography, Sri Shiva Bharat, or the Sanskrit biography of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj composed by the poet Paramananda, as well as various other biographies of different rulers and their correspondence helps us to understand the policies and administrative systems of rulers and their diplomatic relation with others. Tawarikh or the Tarikh means the sequence of events. Tawarikhs written by Al-Biruni, Ziauddin Barani, Maulana Ahmad Yahya bin Ahmad, Mirza Haidar, Bhimsen Saxena, etc. are available. Bakhar is a type of chronicle that originated in Maharashtra. Chronicles help in understanding aspects like the contemporary political happenings, linguistic transactions, cultural life, social conditions, etc. Many of these chronicles in Marathi were written many years after the events had occurred. As a result, they are to rely on hearsays. Some of these chronicles are Mahikawatichi Bakhar, Sabhasad Bakhar, Chitnisachi Bakhar, Bhausahebachi Bakhar, etc. The works of contemporary Western historians like Robert Arm, M. C. Sprengel, and Grant Duff are also important. Oral sources. We understand various aspects of folk life through folk literature traditionally passed on from generations to generations. Some examples are ovis, folk songs, povadas, folk tales, legends, and myths. Such type of sources are called oral sources of history. History is written with the help of the three types of sources mentioned in this lesson. Even after it has been written down, research on it goes on continuously. New sources and information come to light through this research. Then, history has to be rewritten accordingly. We can see that our history textbooks and those of our parents and grandparents differ to a certain extent. Students, do this. Make a collection of povadas, tribal songs, and present them in the cultural programs arranged in your school. Students, do you know the povada of Tanaji? Given below is an extract from a povada composed by Tulsidas Shahir. He portrays the Kondhala campaign in it. The povada contains beautiful character sketches of Tanaji, Shelar Mama, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Veer Mata Jizabai, etc. The povada is as follows. मामा बोलाया तो लागला 80 वर्षांचा म्हातारा लगीन राहिले रायबाचे तो मजला सांगावी माझ्या तानाजी सुभेदारा जे गेले सिंहगडाला त्याचे पाठीरे पाहिले नाही पुढारे पाहिले जाने आंबारे खाईला बाठा बुजरा लाविला त्याचे झाड होऊनी आंबे बांधले किल्ला हाती नाही आला सिंहगड किल्ल्याची वार्ता काढू नको तानाजी सुभेदारा जे गेले सिंहगडाला ते मरून शाने गेले तुमचा सपाटा होईल असे बोलू नको रे मामा आम्ही सूरमर्द क्षत्री नाही भिणार मरणाला. Evaluating the sources of history. It is necessary to take certain precautions before using these sources of history. We have to examine their authenticity and see which are genuine and which are fake. Their quality can be determined with the help of internal standards. We also have to study the integrity of the writers, their personal interest, the period in which they live, and the political pressures on them. It is also important to see whether they rely on hearsay or give an eyewitness account. We need to consider the exaggeration, metaphors, and other literacy devices they use. Their information has to be verified with the help of contemporary sources. The information may be one-sided, contradictory, or exaggerated. It has to be seen in a proper perspective. The sources have to be subjected to a critical analysis. The author's impartiality and neutrality are very important in writing history. The folk songs, gathas, shlokas Abhangas, Povadas, proverbs, legends, myths, they all form the oral sources of history. Students, say your say. Suggest measures for preserving sources of history. अशा प्रकारे आज आपण महाराष्ट्र स्टेट बोर्ड इंग्लिश मीडियम स्टँडर्ड 7th सब्जेक्ट हिस्ट्री अँड सिविक्स मधील चॅप्टर 1 द सोर्सेस ऑफ हिस्ट्री ह्या धड्याची माहिती घेतली. हा व्हिडिओ जर आवडला असेल तर लाईक करा, शेअर करा आणि सबस्क्राईब करा. धन्यवाद.